It's a question of both saving the planet, but being fair for all of humanity.
I'm from a place in South India that's close to ocean. I've grown up there for 20 years of my life, and I've seen my share of floods in my place during the time I grew up. And there are predictions that say that place will not exist in another 100 years. And that was my home. To imagine that wouldn't exist sometime in 100 years is chilling in thought. So this can happen to any place that's close to ocean if what we are seeing is true. Since that's so close to my heart, I think that it's a good motivation for me to work on.
So by birth, I was born in the city of Kiev in Ukraine. And I still remember that we were not able to pay some of our energy bills. So what people would do, they would come to the meter and they would literally just manually screw it back, just so that when the people who collect the payment would come by, like, oh, we don't have anything to pay for. And I still remember that as a kid, and just not being able to afford paying for heating or for electricity. The general infrastructure of energy, you take out one particular place and more than half of the people in Kiev don't have hot water. So I would say that's a personal mission that I feel very much attached to, that we have to make energy much more accessible and cleaner, so that we don't really have, in places like, for example, Ukraine, we don't really have a problem of people not wanting to, turn on the heating because they can't afford to pay when people come by to collect the payment. So if for nothing else, that's the most noble mission that I would have.
Growing up, my family built a cabin on the side of a lake in sort of the Pacific Northwest, this idyllic landscape to be a kid in. It's tall trees, it's ferns, it's, swimming in lakes and creeks. And I feel so fortunate that was a childhood I got to experience. And, in my early 20s, it hit me that, if things continue the way they're continuing, there's a limited window on how many people will get to experience anything remotely like that. And very soon in my lifetime, the place that I grew up cherishing may not be around in the state that it's in. The fish may die, algae may bloom, the rains may stop coming. And I don't know, I got to a point where I wasn't comfortable with not being a part of helping trying to solve that problem. I could see a future for myself 50, 60 years where my kids and grandkids were asking what I did to help solve the greatest problem that humanity's ever faced. And I had these recurring nightmares where I couldn't give them an answer because I was, focused on a career that was rewarding for myself, but didn't have any sort of grand ambition or any sort of social fabric to it. It was stuff that was interesting to me alone and not really benefiting the collective. So the mission of Modern to make energy clean and cheaply available for all is incredibly noble, and it's incredibly necessary as we move towards a future that is highly uncertain and dependent on what we do today. So I couldn't be more excited to be working on this.